Hello everyone in TMR land. We are here at the Florida Hotel in beautiful Orlando, Florida, trying to bump into Jim Steinmeyer. Now, for those that don't know, Jim Steinmeyer not only worked with Doug Henning, performance artist and illusionist, as well as David Copperfield, but he also worked with WDI, that's right, Walt Disney Imagineering. So hopefully we can pick his brain a little bit, get some info and more insight into Walt Disney Imagineering. Let's talk to him, ask some questions, get some insight. So we are here with Jim Steinmeyer at the Genie Convention, talking a little bit about Disney and the Pepper's Ghost, because he is probably one of the foremost thinkers of the Pepper's Ghost in modern times. But I want to kind of just get some insight on the history, because you probably know the most about it out of anyone in the world.
Well, there's a lot of history about it, and it hasn't really been documented. It's a story that was only told in little pieces over the years. And so what was fun was putting it all together, you know, kind of from start to finish and seeing really what it is. There's a lot of controversy about who really invented it and what the important ideas were and what the bad ideas were, and how it all came into being. So it was really fun putting this together, and of course it does have a modern approach because it works its way all the way into Disney theme parks, and that's the amazing way that we see it today.
Of course. Into that history, you said a lot of people are uncredited and miscredited, whereas, you know, Professor Pepper gets kind of the main credit.
Right. Yeah.
But even going back to like Phantasmagorian with Gaspar Robinson and that sort of thing.
Right.
Now, how would those kind of relate? Because that was more of like a lantern show, so much as like a projection or a reflection.
They were lantern shows, but you know, right around that time, people used to use parabolic mirrors to produce reflective effects.
Yes.
And it used to be, you know, in the 1500s, 1400s, 1500s, a magician's mirror, quote unquote, was a parabolic mirror.
Perfect.
Because that would reflect something, you know, would bounce an image from one place to another.
Yes.
And so it was really the whole idea of using a flat plane of glass to reflect.
Yeah.
That was a mirror to people, but magicians didn't use that.
Yeah.
Until Pepper's Ghost, and then what that inspired, the later inventions that inspired that. So really, all those tricks, you know, it's all done with mirrors.
Yes.
That all dates from Pepper's Ghost, 1862, and then the illusions that followed right after that, which were done with silvered mirrors. So really, all of that stuff comes out of the Robertson tradition, that kind of phantasmagoria. And you see people talking about Pepper's Ghost when it was first produced as kind of the ultimate phantasmagoria, because that's what they were comparing it to, these projected images that they had seen.
Of course.
And that's the only thing they could compare it to, was projected images.
And again, it's always kind of almost had this spiritualistic sense because it's based around ghosts.
Well, I mean, part of that is that the image was always transparent.
Yeah.
So, you know, you kind of go, well, why would you have a transparent person on stage? Oh, that's a ghost. And so they were kind of like perfect for ghost stories, and you can see that that's how all the early applications of it were.
Of course. Now, we did say you did work for Walt Disney Imagineering for a time. How long did you work for them, and when did that happen?
From about 86 to about 2000, I worked for Imagineering. I ended up being a consultant off and on projects.
Perfect. And what kind of things did you do for them?
Oh, I did a whole bunch of stuff for them. I started with a group called Entertainment Centers, which was developing concept of kind of lighter entertainment and dining and retail.
Oh, very nice.
Which was a different mix for them.
Yeah.
And then I ended up working on Epcot renewals when the Epcot renewals were done in 10 years after the original contract.
Yes.
And ended up doing some concept work for what became California Adventure.
Very nice.
And then some work for some of the individual rides, like Roger Rabbit.
Oh, beautiful. And I love Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin.
Oh, thanks.
I've only been able to experience it a couple times, but
it's a great ride, and it's a kind of great modern ride, and they did it.
Yeah, and I was almost nervous that they were going to get rid of it for Star Wars, but it's still there.
Yeah.
But anyway, excellent. Now, as far as main things you work on, did you have any involvement with Pepper's Ghost, like helping to refurbish that? Because I know like Raleigh Crump and Yale Gracie had.
So when I was at Imagineering, this weird thing is I was brought in one department, and I really didn't work with special effects.
Okay.
Except on a couple little things that I was brought into. So I really didn't work on the Pepper's Ghost stuff at Imagineering. I had talked to some people about it, and my biggest involvement with it was working with Rolly Crump. Rolly Crump had worked with Yale Gracie on the original Haunted Mansion. So when I talked to Rolly and worked with him on Epcot renewals, we often talked about it. And he told me about Yale Gracie and how they did the tests for Pepper's Ghost, and how they mocked up all that stuff at the studio.
Yeah.
They did full-size mock-ups of individual effects on studio stages.
Yeah.
And they would bring people through and show them.
Yeah, put them in the cart and roll them through.
Yeah.
Because I mean, again, being into stop motion, like I just said, we talked briefly before this about Kong 33. I'm infatuated with miniatures and just model making, concept models. That whole thing is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
So, what was your favorite part about working with Walt Disney Imagineering?
I'll tell you the favorite part. two things. Number one, the people who were there were completely unbelievable talent. I remember, and it still gives me a chill down my spine, the first couple months there, sitting in meetings and thinking, why am I here? I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here because these people are going to find out that I'm a fake.
Wow.
I can't keep up with these people.
Wow, really?
Yeah, you can't do this because and then number two, which is hand in hand with that, but it really was the people, is their process. I still remember, going into a conference room, and they have a very specific, I shouldn't say specific, it isn't written in stone, but it's sort of handed down. They have their own way of brainstorming, the way they go through projects.
Of course.
And when you're the...
It's like going through the traditions class as well.
Yes.
They have their way of doing it.
They have their way of doing it. And when you sit with experienced Imagineers, and they plop down in those conference chairs, and they go, okay, we're here to talk about a new concept for Disney Island, and let's do this. And when you sit there and there are 10 guys going bang, 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 you just go, oh my God, this is I can't, get me out of here.
Yeah. This
is so terrifying. They're so good at that process, at like running that, of generating ideas, of evaluating ideas, of circling back and sorting them and changing them. And that was really inspiring. It was inspiring working with all those people,
of course.
And then it was inspiring seeing that process of how they do that. And that's really amazing.
Yeah, and now the parallel to that question, again, without getting probably too much in depth, what was your least favorite part?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what it is. And it's no surprise. Disney's a very frustrating place on a certain level because things grind very slowly. And that's okay. That's just kind of the way that is. They develop projects for a really long time, and they develop them very carefully, and things will be put on ice and then will come back, and then other teams will come involved, and then, and they have a very, I want to say meticulous, it doesn't always seem organized, but a meticulous, slow way of moving things.
Yeah.
So, I would say one of the frustrations is that if you're with a bunch of creative people, that whole slow process.
Yeah, when you want to see an outcome happen.
And that's exactly what it is, when you want to see an outcome happen. So it grinds people down, seeing an outcome happen. Because, it's really frustrating being involved in something and then, like, you go, and 6 years from now, you might see it. And that's kind of, and
it doesn't have the immediacy.
Right, 6 years from now, when you're off of it, and other people are on it, and you hear about it through the newsletter, and then you come back and you see it, and then you do this, it might happen. And it's not always quite that remote, but there's a little bit of that where you can feel that the people there kind of go, oh, man, this is frustrating. So I think the company has gotten a little better at that. I also think that all the people who work there find self-motivation in other things, and that's what I always saw. Is the people who work there, they do their Disney work, and then they find their own things that motivate themselves. So that's the frustration, is that it doesn't, you don't get to go like, well, let's do it. And I will say one of the amazing things of working with like Rolly, when you talked about the old guys, the old guys would go, we need a new ticket booth in Adventureland. Well, let's go build it.
Yeah.
And they would go through the morgue of parts, prop pieces, and they go, oh, that looks good. Let's take that wall. Let's do this.
Kind of when they were inventing it.
It was when they were inventing it. And you can see that like the original Disneyland was really done by guys who were just at the top of their game.
Yeah.
They went out there with hammers and nails, went bang, bang, bang. Yeah, let's repaint that. Let's do this. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And Rolly had amazing stories about like, Rolly, would you carve the tiki gods? And he went, what's a tiki god? Yeah, I think I know what a tiki god. So he like goes and does research, and he comes up with his own vernacular of what they are, and he paints them, and he finds the colors, and he does it. And Rolly goes, those are still my tiki gods at Disney.
Still.
Yeah, it's like that stuff just happened because someone went, well, this weekend let's do the tiki gods.
Yeah.
And so you can see that one of the frustrating things is that company used to be bang, 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 and now it's a big slowly moving wheel.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's hard. That's kind of hard to be in the middle of that for people. But the people who really survive there, people who are really good there, they find a way to deal with that and get motivated.
Awesome. What an amazing experience, guy. Jim Steinmeyer, former Walt Disney Imagineer. Now, he didn't actually work on Haunted Mansion and Pepper's Ghost, but he knows a lot about the history, and that's kind of what we talked about at the end. the last couple minutes of our interview did get cut off. My SD card unfortunately filled up, and because I wasn't behind the camera, I didn't know what happened. So the end was cut short. But all we talked about in those last few minutes was, of course, I thanked him for his time and for sharing all of this knowledge. But the last thing we did talk about was the history more in depth. So at Walt Disney World, you have a Pepper's Ghost illusion, but John Henry Pepper isn't the only one responsible for this effect. He is the one mainly credited because he did patent the illusion, but originally he saw it utilized by another man named Henry Dirks. Now Henry Dirks had the original idea not to have a slanted piece of glass, because that's what the Pepper's Ghost actually implements, a slanted piece of glass with a slanted forward round image, whatever it's reflecting. Now the Dirks Phantasmagoria style is a flat piece of glass, and the object reflected either has to be above or below the audience. Now what made this harder to imagine was that back in 1860s, you need an entire specially made theater to create that effect. And whereas John Pepper's methodology, you didn't need a whole special theater, you just kind of needed a special setup in a theater. So that's why to this day he not only patented it, but it was just a more effective way of utilizing Pepper's Ghost. But for all you Disney fans, know this, it is not just John Henry Pepper responsible for that effect at the Haunted Mansion. It is the original Dirks Phantasmagoria with flat pieces of glass, and of course the puppets underneath and above you, creating that awesome ballroom scene. So don't forget, guys, it's not only Pepper's Ghost, but Henry Dirks as well. Two Henrys creating this amazing illusion, which has inspired many things throughout time, from teleprompters to even cinematic special effects. So guys, that was the amazing talk, amazing interview with Jim Steinmeyer. Again, I couldn't even believe that I had this moment. It was so awesome, and we will see you next time on a TMR tour, maybe even an interview with another Disney Imagineer or former Imagineer. We'll see you next time, guys. Congaloosh.
Okay, because it's 1933.
Yeah.
You get every light in Hollywood, and they put it on this, and like the meters are like blowing off the charts.
Yeah, of course.
So bright, and this like 12-foot model, 15-foot model of the Statue of Liberty, and they hook the monkey up, and they start the camera, and they just turn it up, and it's screaming, and they're kind of going, oh my God, is this gonna work? They think, and they knock the monkey off.
Yeah.
And the camera goes chunk, and the rubber shears, twists, and shears off. Bang. And they go,
Hope we got it.
here we hope we got it. And they take it into the processing room, and the film was all pleated in the gate. It had run so much, so fast, that it was all accordion pleated in the gate. And they're in the dark, because pulling it out of the camera is in the dark.
Yeah.
They're in the dark with pen knives, prying the film out of the gate, going, I hope this works, I hope it works.
Yeah.
And they process it, and that was the shot. One shot.
One time, it doesn't happen anymore. One shot, one take.
Exactly.